iRacing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Oh.
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Second round of the inaugural championship of the Australian Production Car E-Series by Simrings.com. From Oran Park a week ago, we continue our Australian jaunt to Phillip Island. And I don't think you could have a track much more different, lot longer, much higher speed, far more sweeping corners here at Phillip Island to challenge our drivers for the two races coming up tonight. After round one, your championship leader is Brenton Hobson, but how will he fare here at Phillip Island? Another very strong grid for tonight's racing. Let's get into it shortly. David Haynes, and I'm joined by Bradley Wingard. Brad, it was fireworks a week ago. We're hoping for another display tonight, but maybe with less collateral damage.
Yeah, good evening, David. Last week was very interesting, and like you said, lots of fireworks, but hopefully the fireworks come at the end of the race, not on lap one. Turn one here is absolutely insane, especially when a race starts. So 2 races tonight, and I am very much looking forward to both of them.
30 plus Mazda MX5s. These club racing cars are really well known for their pack racing and their slipstreaming, and that is going to be absolutely on show here at Phillip Island. Massive speeds, as you can see, through the final corner, down the long pit straight, and then a really, really fast turn one to feed into a key overtaking opportunity at the Southern Loop. And then 2 big braking zones around here as well, into MG, into Honda hairpin there as well. Very well known for motorcycles, very well known for supercars and other racing here at Phillip Island. It's a great venue, and it will be interesting tonight in this championship, no doubt. There's all your facts, there's all your figures. Drivers are just wrapping up qualifying right now, which is going to set the grid for the 20-minute sprint race number 1, then progressive grid from race number 1 into the 40-minute race number 2, where we're going to have a little bit of pit stop action. After just 1 round, this is how the championship sits. Brenton Hobson, 2 wins and a second, is only 2 points shy of the maximum 300 that he could have claimed at round 1. And his friend and teammate there, Jack Boyd, in second, just a little bit behind him. Then the rest, Damon Woods, Aaron Oliver, Lee Harrison, Ben Bugwana, Ryan Kasher, Damien Seeger, Marty Turner, and Anthony Connors, our top 10 in the championship right now. After just 1 round, of course, that is a lot of racing, a lot of points still to happen, and no doubt some action whatsoever. Don't expect to see it look like that all the way through.
Yeah, because of the nature of these cars and how busy last round was, I think more of the same this week is really shake up the order very quickly. Only 2 races tonight. Of course, like you said, the second one being 40 minutes. It's anyone's guess who's going to take the win in either of the races today.
Grid locked in. They are going to form up for race number 1, and this is how they're going to do it. Aaron Oliver claims pole position. He's first in Australian Production Car E-Series. He's going to be sharing the front row with Jared Hughes. Marty Turner in third, and championship leader Brenton Hobson, Hobbo88, The Beard in fourth. Got Cooper Allen and Ben Bugwana behind. Some good names, some good pictures for our top 6. Further down the grid, and it is a big grid that we're treated to tonight, you've got Jack Boyd, second in the championship, from Caleb Hydes, always a bit of a gun in the MX5. Lee Harrison, looking like he's on summer holiday there, and Ben Snell, Lachlan Manif, Wayne Losh to round out the top 12.
Closely behind them, we have Aaron Hindle and Corey McFarlane, Luke Angley and Glenn Boyd round out row 8, Ashley Norman and Mark Johnson taking out row 9. In row 10 is Liam Caplice and Brody Cook. Matthew Hanson Taylor is back in row 11 with Brian Kasher. Dale Carpenter and Josh Haynes round out row 12.
Haynes with a podium in round number 1, starting 24th here. That's a bit of a surprise, but the rest of the grid is Damien Seeger, Daniel Webster, Anthony Connors, Moz Moroz, Andrew Hobby, Phil Orty, and the remainders, Greg Holmes and Damon Woods. Scares me, that Greg Holmes photo. But they are getting ready for the standing start. Look at them all lined up here for the run down towards turn 1. Very near to flat out, I would think, on the start, but then Southern Loop, deceptively tricky. Track tries to roll away from you. Elevation change in the middle, really long corner, and don't be surprised to see someone in the grass and the gravel on the exit. And then, of course, once they come sweeping down through turn 3 to that braking zone at turn 4, that is going to be an action zone. 20 minutes, engines revving, green flag in the sky. We go racing for round 2 of Australian production car E-Series. And probably deep in the field, trying to slot the gap 3 wide and pick up some positions up front. How are they all doing? To the right-hand side immediately for the 70 of Aaron Oliver, now sliding back around to go flat out through turn 1. Around the outside, it's a dangerous place, and there is contact. Your championship leader is going to shoot across the grass. How is he going to rejoin in the Southern Loop? He's out of control. He slides back onto the track, and everyone gives him just enough room that you could smell that coming around the outside of turn 1. Championship leader, side-to-side contact, the wheels catch, and he gets sent into the air, and that's not the only action happening in the first sector of lap 1. Luke Angeli around, and they're heading down towards turn 4.
Yeah, absolute chaos going through turn 1. We thought it might be a big car, but it's pretty wide as well. The Hopkins rejoin, it just absolutely shows the class of this field. They gave him just enough room to come back on, and he guided the car on at a really good angle, and thankfully, no more carnage from that accident.
Jared Hughes has snuck through into the lead of the race ahead of Aaron Oliver, then Marty Turner, Cooper Allen, and Ben Bargwana. So this is on board with your pole sitter, now back in a second place. And he is going to be fighting with Hughes for the lead, side by side through the hay sheds, over towards Lukey Heights, down towards MG. A lot of 2 wide in this field is what to expect when the MX5s go racing. And that looked like, the 92... Caleb Hyde's making some positions up as well. Here's Hobson, still fighting around the outside. Huge check up off of MG and into the final sector. Your run onto the pit straight is going to be so critical, though.
Yeah, absolutely. The outside of Lukey Heights becomes the inside of MG, and it drops so quickly. The car goes under such a change, and then you get a massive draft fest like this down out of the last corner, down the main straight, and there's probably 9 or 10 cars in this half a second gap heading to start lap 2.
Conductor Caleb Hyde has got Cooper Allen, Ben Bargwana, Brenton Hobson, Lee Harrison, all right up behind him. Almost a bit of bump drafting trying to go on as Cooper Allen will sneak his nose in front, and then there's contact, and Hyde isn't going to like that. More contact for Hobson, and poor Caleb Hyde. No huge damage, but then that rejoin there, not as good as we saw lap 1. He's found a bit of a landmine there. That suspension is done on the 71. Ben Bargwana is going to be disappointed, I think, with that, and it will just a little clumsy too early.
Yeah, I think the rejoin there was a little bit too brash, and obviously they were heading right to the braking zone, so maximum velocity, and just couldn't get it stopped in time, and a very intricate pirouette, or somersault, I guess, on the grass as well.
The top 3 are going to want to get away from that chaos and that carnage. And Aaron Oliver and Jared Hughes, are they working together a little bit? Potentially. I haven't seen anything too risky between these guys. They know that 20 minutes is actually going to feel like a pretty long race for these cars. Marty Turner rolling along with them too. But here's a look from Oliver down the inside. Is he going to get given room? Maybe just enough. They're still going to go 2 wide, battling for the lead of the race here. Hughes is not going to give it up, and he's going to try to slot back down the inside. It's a good move by Hughes, but look at all the other cars behind. They're going to catch this pack if that is what keeps happening. Hughes back to the lead, Oliver in second, Marty Turner still watching in third, and it's Cooper Allen in fourth, leading the rest of the pack.
Yeah, qualifying was absolutely intense. There was half a second between, I think, the top 20 cars or something, and it shows on track. More nearly bump drafting down the straight for the lead. On board with Marty Turner on the outside heading into turn 1. Not the ideal position, but it's going to try it anyway. Not quite enough though.
It's corner number 1, but it's turn in number 3, and look how much Cooper Allen, Brenton Hobson, Jack Boyd, Lachlan Manif, Ben Snell, they've all caught back up. It's 15 cars for the lead pack once again. It's what you expect with this Mazda MX5, but it's absolutely what you expect for Phillip Island as well. So much time at full throttle all the way down that pit straight, staring out across towards Tasmania. And they go so quick down there, and it's too wide once again for the lead. This time, Cooper Allen, he's made up a lot of spots really aggressively. He's picked off Marty Turner. He's trying to come around the outside of Siberia on Aaron Oliver, and that's not going to happen. He held the nose in second for a bit. He's back in third now.
Yeah, it doesn't even compromise his exit, which is really good because he's right on the back of Aaron Oliver right now, heading up towards Hayshed. The one thing that's great about Phillip Island is it looks to go too wide around the outside. Usually drivers go to the inside, but he's going to try it anyway. I think he's still there. Up Lukey Heights, down into MG. Still on his inside. He's got the position. Very well driven by Cooper Allen through that middle part of the track.
Perfectly done, and at the same time, Brenton Hobson was doing the exact same thing to Marty Turner. He got down the inside. Championship leader Hobbo, after contact in turn 1, lap 1, is back up into 4th and looking very, very happy in the pack here. It's a little bit of a penguin parade. 15 cars still for our lead pack here with 3/4 of the race still to go. Lachlan Manif, look at him just following the snake. They start to fan out too wide towards turn 1 though. A little bit more bump drafting going on. Cooper Allen has pushed Jared Hughes to stay into the lead. Manif's held at single file, but I think Jack Boyd, around the outside of Marty Turner, has managed to steal a position there as well. So brave from Jack Boyd.
Yeah, it's a fantastic move. Southern Loop is such a difficult corner to go around the outside. It's off camber, but that's really worked for him because now he's right behind his biggest championship rival. Brenton Hobson is the next car on track to
3 wide. 3 wide for the lead. In the middle, Aaron Oliver. Around the outside, Cooper Allen. Still trying to hold the lead, Jared Hughes. In the background, that's Brody Cook with a lot of damage and the wheels up in the air facing the wrong way. We'll try to rejoin. I think some of the suspension's not facing the right way there. Up front, though, somehow, 3 wide for the lead didn't end in chaos.
Any other track it probably would have, but Phillip Island is a nice big track, and 2 wide again going up over Lukey Heights again. These guys are absolutely on it. He's not quite as far up as he was last lap. Still doesn't have the run. It's still going to try 2 wide anyway. Hobbo on the outside gets hit again. That's going to let Jack Boyd through, and championship shake-up is all over the place.
First and second in the championship side by side as Hobson tries to recover. Ben Snell not in a bad spot here at all, up in 6th. He's going to pick a good line and get a good run onto the pit straight here. We're going to see the trademarked Hobson and Boyd bump draft. I suspect we're going to. There's Boyd on the rear bumper, pushing Hobson up towards the leading trio. Are they going to go 3 wide once again? Cooper Allen can't find a third lane, so he's going to stick behind Aaron Oliver, who takes the race lead.
Oh man, we need a safety car or something to catch our breath. This is nuts. And it's still probably 9 or 10 cars within, 7 cars within a second, and then yeah, the whole 15, 16, 17, 18 cars all within that pack or nearabouts, and they're 2 wide again. The 94 of Courtney McFarlane going to the inside becomes the outside and gets his nose chopped off, but thankfully enough space to hold it up, and Jack Boyd up the inside. A little bit of a brake lock, but nothing too major.
All of them 2 wide through the hairpin there. Good racing, a bit more space being given than we had earlier on, and Aaron Oliver would hope that they would keep battling behind him. Cooper Allen is up in a second. Here is McFarlane still side by side with Jack Boyd. Marty Turner right in behind them, but I think Boyd will sweep across and hold it.
Oh, I was going to say earlier that that's the great thing about this track is you can do 2 wide the entire lap of the race, and it just switches back on itself so well. And Caleb Hyde's going around the outside at Lukey Heights down into MG to become the inside. He gets a position done before the hairpin, which is not really something we've seen done so far. And Marty Turner is very slow at the moment out of MG.
Yeah, he might have had a problem there. There's no problems right now for Caleb Hides. Remember, he was off in turn 1, turn 2, hit the barrier, has gotten back on, and now he's still battling. He's back in the fight. You cannot make him give up. Cooper Allen bump drafting Aaron Oliver at the lead, and Jared Hughes side by side with Hobson for third. Super defensive line still, though, from Oliver. He didn't want to open up the line into Southern Loop, lest someone behind stick their nose into it, be it Cooper Allen, be it Jared Hughes, and there's Turner off the road. Careful on the rejoin, and space had to be given.
Yeah, this pack is close, but thankfully it's not quite lap 1 or lap 2 close, and there is that bit of room, and 2 wide. 3 rows back into the hairpin again. Jack Boyd trying to go around on the outside of Brenton Hobson. Becomes the inside for Siberia, and he's not quite there, but he might be able to get a switchback done, or at least fake Hobbo out of a
huge pile up at the hairpin. The second pack have all come together. That's Hides facing the wrong way again, I think. Anthony Connor's there. Oh, a lot of cars come together, and it's not done yet. Poor Luke Angeli trying to come through there has collected a driver, flick spinning it around. It's been so clean in our top 10, but the pack behind with Caleb Hides and others, not to call him out, but he was just leading that pack, have come together. This is how, side by side through Stoner, 2 wide, 2 deep, and then
that'll do it. Bit of a Constantina, and yeah, the cars just keep coming faster than they can get out the way. That's 5 or 6 cars, and I think that was more contact from behind than anything else.
Look at Marty Turner come into this as well. So that is super deep from the 111, and then Turner equally as deep. And once there's 2 cars that are a little out of control and they're already 2 wide, no one's got anywhere to go to dodge, and it causes a huge, huge amount of damage. The live pictures, though, there's Luke Angeli getting collected with the rejoin. It is still all kicking off with 6 laps to go up front. This is your lead pack. Cooper Allen from Aaron Oliver. Jack Boyd's worked his way up into third. And it's side by side with Brenton Hobson and Corey McFarlane. Hobbo's got the momentum, though. Side by side, all the way through the pack here, down to where it was an action zone just a lap ago. There was a little bit of a bump, super deep in there. 3 wide causes a little bit of contact.
Still 3 wide. Brenton Hobson's surely not going to yield. Never mind that. Goes up the inside of Corey McFarlane, who had the better run out of the corner, but didn't have the entry for the hairpin, and it's still going to go side by side up towards Lukey Heights. And who needs a super speedway for side by side when you've got MX5s at Phillip Island? This is fantastic. Corey tries to hold it around the outside. This perfect aerial shot gives a sense of the elevation, and the change the car goes under through this section of track is just incredible. And Corey with the optimum line, but Hobbo's no slouch in these cars, and he'll have the inside for the penultimate corner, which again becomes the inside for the last corner for that big straight, and in the end, McFarlane has to yield the inside, but it's still not over yet.
No retreat, no surrender for anyone in the top 10 here. I'm loving what I'm seeing. Look at them, absolutely nose to tail here. Absolutely nose to tail for the top 3 as well. Cooper Allen led the race coming out of that final corner, but will he lead it in towards turn 1 is going to be a huge, huge question, because that is a massive run from Jack Boyd. He pulls out around the outside. He's got a giant head of steam. Can he hold it around the outside? He's going to try. He's going to get a car width, and that's the inside for Southern Loop. Jack Boyd to the lead of the race. Cooper Allen out high on the slippery stuff, being hung out to dry a little bit, but again, no retreat, no surrender, no give up in the vocabulary of any of these guys, and that's why it's such a close battle for the top 10. Thankfully, clean in this battle so far, a lot of talent, a lot of awareness, and a lot of skill, but eventually, you've got to think that ambition is going to get in the way of that.
Yeah, absolutely. 6.5 minutes to go. It's a little bit of time, not a lot, but a bit of time in these cars, about 3.5 laps. And you got to wait. When is the bomb going to tick? When's it going to go off? And because they're so close, when the bomb goes off, it's going to be huge.
Exactly. That's what we saw with all the 2 wide battling in that other pack that came to grief. Good angle there of all of the Mazdas as they come towards another action zone across the crest of the hill, breaking downhill into the hairpin where you want to try to hook that inside. You also don't want to try to hook the bumper of the driver in the lead, Cooper Allen, but it must be difficult to avoid doing that for some of the other drivers right now. There, it's happened. Aaron Oliver's facing the wrong way. Brenton Hobson's into him, and McFarlane with some damage, losing a lot of time as well.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. Getting a replay up now, and I think Oliver just didn't realize how much further up Hobson was in that penultimate corner and just closed the door on him. Unfortunate McFarlane, just an absolute bystander, but no one else taken out in that crash, thankfully, but that's all it took.
When you're shoulder to shoulder in the crowd for that long, it's almost inevitable you're going to bump into someone and have to say, excuse me. And it's a shame that it happened like that, but no major damage for those guys, I think. Some of them might get back into this, and that's critical because the finishing results of this race set the grid for race number 2. If you can keep in the top 20, keep in the top 15, sure, you're going to be losing out some points, but that's so important for how many cars you're going to have to pass in race number 2. So, up front, Cooper Allen, Liam Caplice out of nowhere into second, then Ben Snell, Jared Hughes, Matthew Hansen, Taylor, Glenn Boyd, huge shake-up up the front. Some drivers who were just hanging around in that top 11 are suddenly looking at a win, looking at a podium. Liam Caplice, one of those, his name hasn't been on my lips the whole first half of the race, but I think with the chaos we've seen, that's a good thing. You want to appear out of nowhere with 5 minutes to go in this style of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. A quiet race is generally a good one. I mean, Caplice so far has probably not had one from his point of view, but from ours, he definitely has, and he's looking to go for second as well. That was that was a lot ambitious. Never mind.
Oh, and that's a huge pile up at the apex of MG. He's been turned around, and the driver's behind with little reaction time as well, and they all try to clear off the track. But now, I've probably gone to put the jinx on Caplice.
I think that was a little bit too ambitious going down the hill. I don't quite think he was far enough there for that move, but I'll get your interpretation of it right now.
Well, we're going to see it. That's Ben Snell, isn't it? I think he's looking for space down the inside, and then the door closes just before he arrives there. It was clumsy, and then a whole bunch of other drivers pile in there. Pretty sure that's Glenn Boyd, and then Jack Boyd comes around the outside, and same too for Hobson, who's missing his whole, no, not Hobson missing his whole front bumper, someone else there, but those wounded have stayed in it and then been given another 5 positions or so. Here's Losh's view of it all kicking off, and he stands on the quiet pedal and sneaks his way through, and he's in 4th right now. 54. That's Aaron Hindle. In 3rd, no front bumper, no grille.
Yeah, I think he's starting to pay the price for it now. Brenton Hobson's just gotten past him. Is that Losh behind is going to get past him inevitably, I believe. Yeah, Wayne Losh around the outside. I don't think it will take much for him to get past, especially towards the end of the lap, but still managed to kind of avoid some of that. Glenn Boyd having an absolute nightmare in the second half of this race, though.
All still happening. Probably going to get the white flag this time, or the time after. This race is quickly coming towards a close, and there's no one hoping for that white flag and that checkered flag to come sooner than Cooper Allen, who holds a 7-second lead right now. Everyone behind him has gone and fallen over and tripped over themselves, and he is leading with a lead like I don't think we've ever seen in this championship before. In 2nd, there's action with Hobson and Hindle and Losh, and in 5th, here we are looking at Jack Boyd, Brian Casher, Aaron Oliver, Mark Johnson, and Moz Moroz has picked up a whole heap of spots as well. On the pit straight they go. If you've got a clean car and you've got good straight line speed, you're not Jack Boyd.
Yeah, and this is helping Hobson. I almost counted Hobson out of it, and I'm going to touch wood really quickly. I thought when he was involved in that incident, that was Jack Boyd's for the win, but now Jack suffering from his damage. Hobson's, 6 spots up the road. That's massive for his championship fight.
It's huge. What a yo-yo of a race for Brenton Hobson. Contact in turn 1 sent him outside of the top 10. He fought back, Then he was involved in the giant incident. He's now fought back again. He's back up into second. You would get dizzy looking at his lap charts in this short 20-minute race. And they're still battling for all the positions they can get because it's points and it's the starting positions for race number 2. Stoner Corner and Honda, site of plenty of excitement. Including Anthony Connors getting down the inside of Jared Hughes in 16th, one-time race leader in this race, and just nursing that poor thing to try to get to the checkered flag. Have we had the white, or is it going to be this time? I think we're going to get one more lap in this.
I think so too. We've got, 28 seconds, about to enter the last corner and exit it just as quickly as we get there. And I think a nice little parade lap for Cooper Allen. He's got a 6.5 second lead on Brenton Hobson behind, so he doesn't have to rush, just hit his marks, take it nice and calm, and it's a nice, I wouldn't say easy, but it's an easy finish to what has been a tough race for everyone.
No worries for Cooper Allen. For Brenton Hobson, that championship-wise, you'd let this one go in this battle against Wayne Losh, but again, he's been driving like there is no tomorrow, like there is nothing else. He wants back down the inside of Losh, held it around the outside of turn 1. He's missing a mirror, but somehow that's the only major damage I can see on the car for Hobson. Losh goes back into third. Aaron Hindle, huge damage, relishing the slipstream, I am sure.
Yeah, it's a very powerful thing, especially when he got damaged, and Hindle is looking very, very racy. They pretty much are 3 wide. A little bit of contact on Hindle from Losh there, but Hobson's still winning out, coming up towards Siberia, and that's cost Losh a little bit heading in here, but he's got really good mid-corner speed and more battles throughout the pack, as we see Aaron Oliver trying to consolidate something in this race, and Moz Morris has had an absolute ripper of a race, up 20 spots.
And here's Jack Boyd. That car's still obviously good in the corners, but it is missing something in a straight line, and that's making him vulnerable to Marty Turner, trying to find a way around. Unconventional way to pass, and look at the speed from Caplice as he tries to slot the gap. Turner and Caplice both get on around. Cooper Allen, not far till he gets to the checkered flag, but there is battles everywhere else. You just need to keep it on the road through the final corner. And from 5th on the grid, as you can see, Cooper Allen is going to take race win number 1 and therefore pole position for race number 2. His first win in this new championship Australian production car E-Series. He's pretty happy with that, and big for his championship. Brenton Hobson finishes second, yet to not stand on the podium this championship.
Yeah, brilliant drive. That's the definition of don't give up by Brenton Hobson here. We've got more battles further back. Jack Boyd is an absolute sitting duck down the straight, unfortunately, but he still brings it home 13th after his trials and tribulations. And Corey McFarlane having a drag race down the main straight. I think he's going to lose out, though. No, he doesn't just.
So, Caplice and... I'm not sure, but Ben Barguan is still racing. Lee Harrison's still racing. These guys have both been through the pit lane, haven't they? Yes, they have. They've had to take repairs after big damage early on. They've just stayed on the lead lap. Lee Harrison's in the good spot at the moment, but we've seen it. You can get a good run and you can pass before that finish line. It is very, very quick through the final corner for these cars. What's Ben Barguana got for the series promoter? He's got a good run. He's got a slipstream, but Barney is standing with the checkered flag to let Lee Harrison just hold on to that one. Last cars on the lead lap, indeed they were. So this is how they finished race number 1 and how they will line up for race number 2. Cooper Allen, his first win, and I'm sure he'll be delighted with that one. He looked pretty happy as he crossed the line. Brenton Hobson, he was up, he was down. He was up and then he was down, and now he finishes second, which is going to extend his championship lead. And Wayne Losh also standing on the podium after race number 1. Aaron Hindle just on the outside looking in, but given that damage, actually pretty good job to pick up some points and a good starting position. Kasha, Oliver, Moroz, Mark Johnson, Damien Seeger, and Marty Turner, the top 10 after a chaotic race number 1.
Liam Caprice in 11th in front of Greg Holmes and Jack Boyd. Anthony Connors comes home 14th and top 15 rounded out by Brody Cook. Corey McFarlane beats Ashley Norman to the line by 8 thousandths of a second at the end, with Jared Hughes, Matthew Hansford-Taylor and Lachlan Manif coming home in 20th.
Bringing it all home, Glenn Boyd, Ben Snell, Andrew Hobby, Lee Harrison and Ben Barguana, Luke Angeli, Phil Orty, Josh Haynes. Remember, a podium getter in round number 1, finishing 28 in race 1 of round number 2. Can that turn around with the 40-minute race coming up? And the rest of the field was Daniel Webster, Caleb Hydes, a perennial punching bag, and Dale Carpenter and Damon Woods as well. A little bit of a break, just 5 minutes between race number 1 and race number 2. That'll let us catch our breath. That'll let you reflect on all the action we just saw in 20 minutes. And when we come back from this break, we'll be here on SimSpeed TV with race number 2, 40 minutes in these MX5s around Phillip Island. Before we go, though, let's thank the supporters that make this championship and this season possible. Of course, simrigs.com, then also Wolfchester, and the graphic helps me out, Phoenix Smokers, Duo Trading. See you in a minute for race number 2.
Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. VRS coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, VRS one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.
Well, we're gearing up now for race number 2, and it's a little change in format from round 1, because instead of 3 20-minute racings to make up our 1 hour of on-track action, we're going into a 2-race format, and race number 2 is going to have just a little more of an endurance feel. A compulsory pit stop as well to change 2 tyres. Which 2? Well, that's up to the drivers to work out what they want to do. And might be something to keep an eye on as well as the race continues to unfold. But for Cooper Allen, third different winner from 4 races so far this season, and he's going to start from pole in race number 2. And plenty of drivers that made up a whole handful of positions in that race number 1 that they are going to be glad to have an improved qualifying spot for race number 2.
Yeah, there were some definite benefactors and losers out of race number 1. Names like Aaron Hindle, Ryan Casher of 22nd to 5th, Moz Morris 28th to 7th, Damien Seeger 25th to 9th, Greg Holmes 31st to 12th, but then you've got on the flip side of that Ben Barguana 6th to 25th and Lee Harrison 9th to 24th. So double race distance in this second one is going to be so important for those guys, and really difficult to hold on to for some of the guys that did gain positions in that first race.
Well, if it's been difficult on the track, our drivers are also going to have a little bit of a challenge with pit in and pit out because it's a very committed pit entry with grass either side, and the pit exit can be difficult as drivers feed out often towards the racing line. Drivers out on track have got to be careful of it. You saw the results after race number 1, but here they are again as the grid for race number 2. Cooper Allen on pole, Brenton Hobson in second, Wayne Losh, Aaron Hindle, Ryan Kasher, and Aaron Oliver. Then Moroz, Johnson, Seeger, Turner, Caplice, and Greg Holmes. Unsettling me a little bit again, but what a move he made through the pack in race number 1 from the very back of the grid to now starting just outside of the top 10.
Oh, if the 20 minutes before were hard enough, this 40 minutes is going to be absolutely bonkers, especially throwing in that pits. It's going to shake up this field, and it's going to be good. I can't wait.
If you're Hobson, do you dare go around the outside of turn 1 again? He's starting on the outside on the front row. They're all revving, ready to drop the clutch and get 30 plus MX5s underway for the final race of the evening. Bit of wheel spin, bit of smoke, but for everyone else, away pretty cleanly. Turn 1, turn 2 can be the site of the action. Cooper Allen's got the jump he wanted off the standing start. Hobson doesn't have to go around the outside of anyone as the top 3 go single file. You've got to look back to 4th and 5th to see Kasher and Oliver going side by side. Matthew Hansford Taylor is on a big sightseeing tour. Lots to see in Phillip Island. That one, probably not as many stars on TripAdvisor.
No, that was a vacation as a half, and we've seen more people going wide at Stoner down towards, or up towards Stoner down and towards Honda as well. And rinse repeat from race 1, lots of chaos, but so far not as bad as the start of race 1.
Squeaking through into the lead goes Brenton Hobson, but it's 3 wide, 4 wide in the pack through the hairpin behind. Anthony Connors being absolutely sandwiched, makes his way through though, and towards Siberia. Still a chance. This could turn nasty, but everyone knows this is a longer race. There's pit stops still to happen, but there's a problem for one of the drop bears, Caleb Hides. Oh my goodness, he has been a punching bag all night long.
Yeah, I don't think if Caleb didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. He's probably one of the most unlucky drivers I know. There was also one of the Boyd cars around as well.
I checked, it was Glenn Boyd though. Glenn Boyd and Ben Snell both with big damage there and on the tow hook to the pit lane. There they are. They're in adjacent pit stalls as well. So keep those two, 1.5 meters apart.
More chaos. Morris is round. I'm assuming that's the exit of MG after his fantastic run in race 1. He's now stone dead last on track.
Let's take a look. A lot of drivers behind. A little bit of contact, but I think this is going to be all him. Too much grass, too much apex. And you get some rotation down there at the inside line at the apex, but you got a little bit too much. Tyres would have still been relatively cold. Track is colder now than it was for race 1 as well, and this better be what happened to Glenn Boyd. I think that's Ben Snell just up in front of him. Oh, one of the chicken up and Ben Snell come together, and then that's problems for Boyd. It's Ashley Norman. I always want to jump to the fact that it could be Marty Turner, but it was Norman.
Yeah, he was very lucky to not be hit again. He was parked right in the middle of the track, so great avoidance from all the others, and just stamping on the brakes is absolute #1 rule if you're having an incident. And thankfully, small incident.
So Cooper Allen holds his lead, but it's still with the pack. Aaron Hindle, Ryan Kasher, and this looks like Losh and Jack Boyd. Boyd trying to keep his nose there, and he'll just manage to do it. That's too deep, trying to hold around the outside for Losh, but that'll still just keep a nose down the inside. No, I think Boyd closes that one off. Oliver's fighting through the field here as well. Jack Boyd, big mover though early. He's up into 6th from, up into 5th from what would have been 13th on the grid.
Yeah, brilliant start now. He's right behind Brenton Hobson, trying to gain back as many points as he can from his loss in race 1 really, and onboard Ryan Kasher giving a nice big bump draft down the main straight. We've seen plenty of that. 3 wide, nearly into turn 1, decides to pull out of it, and Jack Boyd around the outside of Brenton Hobson. If he holds it, he's there. And he does. Inside for Southern Loop is where you want to be, and they're all checking up in front of it as well, but he gets the move done before that becomes a problem.
Bit of lap traffic now in front of our leaders. There's Cooper Allen in black and lime, trying to get around Ben Snell. Snell's got a great opportunity here to get out of everyone's way if he takes it. And he's going to send everyone else around the inside, down towards the inside. And Hobson, no. Hindle trying to take an opportunity to dive at the lead, still side by side with Kasha. It's Hobson now behind Snell, who's a lap car in the pack.
Yeah, this is a plenty big track, but lap traffic still plays its part. Finally getting past now. I'm assuming that Snell is going to give a nice big lift up towards MG. Jack Boyd getting through on... who was that? That was Hindle? No, Asher, sorry. And down towards MG now. Mostly single file, a little bit of 2 wide. Cody McFarlane, sorry, going down the outside. Big check up there.
Well, this is regrouped a 15-car lead pack once again. All of them still trying to clear a little bit of lap traffic as they come onto the pit straight. Plenty of slipstreaming, plenty of bump drafting to happen. And ride on board the 12, Andrew Hobby in 15th as he's staring at 14 cars in front of him. Slipstreaming off Ben Bhagwan, who's slipstreaming Brody Cook. It goes forward, Seeger, Turner, Johnson, Hughes, McFarlane, Losh, etc. All the way to Ryan Kasha side by side with Cooper Allen for the lead through turn number 1. There's been contact. I think that's Kasha way off the road. What's the quality of the rejoin? A lot of space given from Oliver. Lets Kasha get back on the paved stuff without causing an incident. Good stuff, good work from these two, who I think I've seen working together.
Yeah, that was very good awareness by both of them. I'm not sure if they were on the radio, I had it muted, but very good rejoin, lots of space there for them to work with as well. Made it a little bit easier, but that could have been a very hairy incident with how close these cars are packed together, and they just absolutely car park it. There's a car wide on exit.
Losh is losing big spots. I think it was him who got sent a bit wide, and is the steering straight on that car? He's back onto the pavement, we'll know in a second.
Well, not at the moment, but he's mid-corner, but it looks alright otherwise. And
well, if the steering was straight mid-corner, we'd know he had a big problem.
Yes, it would be, yeah. But yeah, that was a big, big drop in such a small section of racetrack, really. That's what both the beauty and the curse of these cars is, because they race so closely. If you make a tiny mistake, you can lose 6 spots in 2.5 seconds.
So Cooper Allen, race 1 winner, pole sitter, has kept that lead. It's gone back and forth between himself and some other drivers, but his consistency in keeping it on the road has kept him up there, and that's Andrew Hobby. He was 15th then in that pack, had moved up to 14th, and a loop at MG, not the first, probably won't be the last. Here they are, all the leaders coming through, but there's a bunch of pit callers. So early onto the lane for Oliver and Lee Harrison and Anthony Connors and Greg Holmes, and also those 4 or 5. They've decided, I don't want to get tangled up in anything that goes off in this lead pack. So that's an early pit call from them. I think these guys could go quite deep into this race if they decided to. But early call from a bunch of drivers, get out of the pack.
It's a bit of a catch-22 when you're racing these sort of cars, because you have the draft, which gives you more speed, and fuel is going to be a factor in this race. It's only going to be marginal, but it will be a factor as we see Cooper Allen go defensive into MG on Jack Boyd. But then the flip side of that is if you're not in the pack, you have a higher survival rate, really. So big catch-22, and I think honestly I'd probably pit and run the safe option.
Well, we'll keep an eye on their lap times as this unfolds, because last lap for Cooper Allen, your leader, therefore the speed that the pack overall is doing, was a 1:47. So if those guys have pitted, are willing to work together, and the leaders keep doing this, then it might have been quicker to have pitted early. we will see Jack Boyd refusing to give up around the outside of Lukey Heights. He's made big moves down the inside of MG here before, really hooks that apex curb, but he's not going to completely squeeze out Allen, and that's going to see them keep going too wide, start to cost themselves a little bit of time until Jack Boyd goes for an over-under. Bunch of drivers diving for the pit lane right now. Again, though, covering off what the other drivers in the pack did. Jack Boyd to the lead. Cooper Allen, Aaron Hindle side by side. McFarlane a little bit further back, but it's Brenton Hobson, Mark Johnson, and Wayne Losh who are on their way to see their pit crew.
That was an absolutely class move by Jack Boyd. The switch back into that second, well, out of the second last corner into the last one. Still has to go outside defensive. He's done this time and time again tonight and works again for him, but absolute class couple of corners by Jack Boyd to take the lead, and very well driven by Cooper Allen as well to not retaliate or try and send it back on him. And he knows this is a long race, and he's playing it safe, but he's letting him know that he's still there.
Here's Aaron Oliver. He's completed his pit stop, just finishing his outlap and getting up to racing anger speed. Where's he going to be compared to some other drivers coming out of the lane? He's going to be behind Hobson, but he's going to be ahead of Losh and Lee Harrison and others. So lead car to have pitted at the moment, Brenton Hobson. Remember, he's had some pretty good pit stops lately, and that was 36 seconds in the lane, 14 seconds of service. So keep an eye on that compared to what everyone else does.
Yeah, I think pit stop time is going to be absolutely key here, and Cooper Allen is back in the lead again. This is honestly, I think, just helping those early pitters, like you said, and we don't have lap times just yet. We'll have to see what Brenton Hobson does when he crosses the line for his, like at the end of his first flying lap. But these guys are short, like they are in that draft train, but this battle through the corners is just slowing them down more and more each lap.
Oliver at the end of this lap will give us a good picture. Oh, there's your leaders both going for the pit lane. Allen and Boyd in together sends Aaron Hindle into the lead of the race. No pit lane speed limiter on these cars, so you got to be... Wait, no, there is now. There never used to be, but there is one now. But you still got to be careful how you attack that entry cone. It's caught out a lot of drivers in real-world motorsport as well. Here's Hindle leading almost 3 wide with Hughes, Kasher, and McFarlane. Kasher around the outside in white is going to be into third as Hughes is into second. And on board with McFarlane, plenty of wheel work there. They called, Pato Award the Ninja. McFarlane's got a good chance of being second ninja.
Okay, pit stops. Brenton Hobson is about to pretty much take the lead from Jack Boyd, and I haven't seen where Cooper Allen is. Actually, no, Cooper Allen is a fair way up the road from Brenton Hobson, so
really quick stop from Allen. Just 10 seconds for Allen, 4 seconds quicker than Hobson, who was already a really quick stop. So someone go back and look at the tape on that replay, but it's been a really, really quick one for Allen. Here's the pack of drivers who haven't finished yet, and haven't pitted yet. We did get a flying lap from Aaron Oliver, 146.8, basically exactly matched what Jared Hughes did last time. So no massive undercut, but still, they're in a safer place than this.
Yeah, much safer. Brenton Hobson has 2 seconds behind him, whereas that's, 7 or 8 cars within 2 seconds, and car off in the background probably kind of exudes our point a little bit of how dangerous the pack racing is. Or how busy it is, rather, not dangerous, but more pitters now. Who's that coming?
Hindle.
From the lead as well.
Well,
Allen wants to be in the lead. Or near the lead.
This is now the lead. Kasher pushing Hughes. McFarlane right in behind them to the point where you can't even see him. He's hiding right at the rear bumper of Kasher. You got Turner and Ben Barguana as well. Dwindling number of drivers yet to have pitted as we approach towards the halfway point of the race. It's literally the drivers you see on screen plus 3 or 4 others. Allen up back into 11th of 30 cars and having made his pit stop. Then Hobson, then Aaron Oliver. Brody Cook, good stop. He's going to rejoin pretty close to them, but he's not up to full speed yet.
Yeah, that's, like you said, the danger of that pit exit. A, it comes back out onto the racing line, and B, the speed difference is just phenomenal. Communication is key. Of course, all these drivers have their relative, but a lot of people don't look at that when they're supposed to, and it causes some massive incidents. But thankfully, very talented field, hasn't been an issue so far.
The problem that happens in this kind of pack is that the relative can only show 3 cars in front and 3 cars behind. For Ryan Kasher, 6 cars behind is covered by only a second or so. It can't show everyone when there's this many drivers. So what are the leaders going to do? Are they going to go really, really long, or are we going to see some of them answer the pit call? All that to be decided on the exit of this corner. Kasher staying a little bit to the left, but not pitting in. Him, Hughes, and McFarlane dodge pit lane, and they all do. They're committed to going long. Kasher at the lead, wide of the final apex, compromises his run onto the pit straight. Is Hughes still going to bump him, or is Hughes going to go for the lead? McFarlane's going to close up with a huge head of steam. Double bump for Ryan Kasher at the lead.
Who needs a good last corner apex when you can have 2 cars push you down the straight? But Marty Turner and Ben Bargwanna are just absolutely roping them in regardless of how much they push down the straight. And too wide in the background, Luke Angley passes Josh Haynes, sorry, up the inside of Southern Loot. But this lead pack is throw a blanket or 2 over them and you still won't see them.
It's like kids on a trampoline, you know, you can jump pretty high by yourself, but suddenly you bring in that double or the triple bounce with the bump draft, and they are motoring along like that. And here, your lead driver to have... Nope, Josh Haynes in the same livery as Cooper Allen. There's Cooper Allen. And you can see he's, you know, was able to pull away from the pack in race number 1 once he broke clear. I don't see Hobson closing up on him. Luke Angeli's had an itty bit of a problem there. No paved runoff here means those track limits enforce themselves.
Yeah, it's very traditional. There's not much, if any, concrete runoff, except for maybe there at the exit of the hairpin, or the entry of the hairpin even, but that's useless on exit. Cooper Allen and Brenton Hobson doing it pretty much identical lap times, so far Hobson not really catching at the rate he'd like to, but more importantly for him, Jack Boyd is 11 seconds down the road, well, behind him, sorry, so big gains for Hobbo so far this race in terms of the championship.
In the last lap for Aaron Oliver, 46.1 was his personal best, took nearly a second out of the leaders. A lot more of them coming towards pit lane now. Ben Bargwanna, Josh Haynes, Luke Angeli leaves our only cars to have not stopped yet as these: Jared Hughes, Ryan Kasher, Corey McFarlane, Marty Turner, and Daniel Webster. And they're going to go side by side here. Hughes around the outside of Kasher.
Oh, they never fail to disappoint. Corey McFarlane almost given the bump draft around Stoner corner towards Honda. I don't think I recommend that, but we see it again, too wide, too deep into the hairpin as well. No position gain for Corey, but still there. Marty Turner right behind him as well. Ben Snell trying again to get past these guys to try and make up some time after his incident really early on, but battle pack resumes and it's like a dogfight. It just doesn't stop.
No doubt, still early in the race, not at the halfway point, and almost everyone has made their pit stop. Here's Hobson closing in on Cooper, on Ben Bargwanna. Right, so good stop from Bargwanna then. He pitted not too many laps ago, and he's come out ahead of Hobson. I hope all these quick pit stops are legal. Oh, and here they are, real commitment on the pit entry. That's what I was talking about. It's narrow when you come in there really quick. No dramas for Hughes, Kasher, and McFarlane. Leaves Marty Turner out into the lead. Behind him there, Ben Snell, pitted early, is a lap down. Ought to be able to go to the end, though, and is really hoping in a second to be able to get himself back onto the lead lap. That'll happen when everyone pits. But if it's just him and Turner, I reckon he can do it on his own accord.
I wouldn't say that was a no-drama pit stop. Corey McFarlane was half on the grass bouncing around. Very interesting, though. Jared Hughes took right tyres, Corey McFarlane took left. So, different driving styles maybe, different wears, but I wasn't quite expecting that. I thought it would be all the same side, but drivers really switching it up, which is really, really good to see.
Getting mugged a little bit on the way towards turn 1 as you saw Hobson at speed shoot on through right up behind Ben Bargwanna, and you can just see in that shot the lead that Cooper Allen is stretching out. As Aaron Oliver, he's going to take a spot away as well from Hughes. He has been on fire catching all of these drivers. Who's got the fastest lap of the race at the moment? It's Ben Snell, okay, with a 45.8. But the last lap for Aaron Oliver was a 46 flat, and he didn't have a whole lot of slipstream to work with either. I think this lap, if he catches Hobson, who's catching Bargwanna, could also be a flyer.
That's the thing, is catching someone is so much easier to do, especially with the slipstream.
Now, we saw connection problems for Cooper Allen in race number 1. He's having them again in race number 2. They've resurfaced.
Yeah, he's not showing up on my timing, so that's the worst way to go. Daniel Webster comes into the pits. Marty Turner is still out, pulling Ben Snell along for the ride, and very, very unfortunate way to go, because completely out of Allen's control, and not at all what we like to see, unfortunately, but it's the nature of how we race.
So the race 1 winner, massive disappointment as he is out of race number 2 from the effective race lead. The official race lead is Marty Turner, because he's the only driver yet to pit, go in the long strategy. Then behind, this pack is closing up again. Bargwanna from Hobson, from Oliver, from Hughes. Oh, another personal best for Oliver, but still 2/10 away from the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, draft's definitely helping him. He was half a second faster than a Hobson and Bargwanna in front. Draft is obviously key here. We've seen it time and time again. It happened during pre-qualifying for the series as well, and now they're line astern going into MG. Little looks, little moves, but nothing serious. Still 18, just under 19 minutes to go, so they don't want to do anything stupid just yet. Give it another 10 minutes and we'll see what they do. But who is that that's run wide?
Well, one of them's Manif, the other one...
I think that's Andrew Hobby.
No, I think... Oh, it is.
Yes. A very wide excursion, a very exuberant rejoin onto the track as well.
So what's happened? It was Ashley Norman there in the chicken up car. Huge steam, 3 wide, down the inside. Well, you need the helicopter shot to know exactly what was going on there. Did the car in the middle squeeze across too much towards the apex? Did the driver down the inside plow a little bit? It's hard to say. 3 cars collide.
Yeah, that was a 3-into-1, does not fit. Thankfully, Hobby and Manif still pointing in the right direction, but Marty Turner, not so much.
Well, he's just made his pit stop. He's come out into 7th, which has elevated this to the new lead of the race battle. Ben Bargwanna out front, Hobson and Hughes side by side, and Aaron Oliver in 4th. He's had pretty strong speed this race. They've still got pretty much the race distance of race number 1 to sort this one out. Any hint of fuel saving in this pack? And can that group behind, Kasher and McFarlane, catch them?
That's what I was thinking. Bargwanna and someone else, it was Allen, had very quick pit stops. I'm wondering if they didn't take fuel and they were hoping on the fuel save. So that'll be interesting towards the end of the race if they can make it. But so far, Ben Bargwanna is exactly where he wants to be, even though there is still 17 minutes to go in this race. Andrew Hobby has also just retired from the race as well, so very unfortunate after that contact. Clearly a lot more severe than it looked on the replay, but he's not going to see the checkered flag for this one as Bargwanna goes defensive very defensive into MG, and I think a little bit too defensive into MG.
Hughes with an over-under, now around the outside, has a wiggle, maybe a little bit of contact, and his momentum stalls out. Barguana holds on to the lead, Hobson through in a second, and Aaron Oliver also going to jump on in. Shouldn't be too much of a concern for Hughes, though, because if there's no damage, he's still part of this 4-car pack with a long, long way still to go.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of front to rear wheel contact. They got very lucky that wasn't a massive incident. But yeah, big bit of stalling out for Jared Hughes. But like you said, he's still in this pack, and that's so important here. Oh, Barguana running wide out of turn 1 into turn 2. No time gained, but scary ride nonetheless. Still holds his position, but I don't think the gap behind is really shrinking down. I think these guys are starting to pull away from the Cash and McFarlane battle behind. Just slightly.
Tough to call it a battle, though, when McFarlane is just pushing Kasher along all the way, trying to catch this lead pack of 4. They managed to do it by the tune of about 3/10 last lap, and there is still 10 laps to go. They only need to get within 1.2 seconds at the back of Jared Hughes, and look, we started to see is Barguana, a little scrappy? Are they starting to fight? There's definitely less cohesion in this 4 than there is in the 2 chasing.
Yeah, looked like a little bit of a fake bump draft from Jared Hughes going up towards Lukey Heights there, but obviously not the place to do it. That causes a wreck, and yeah, these guys really are starting to turn up the heat, and I think it is helping McFarlane behind. They've caught up about 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second this lap again, so maybe that's the strat. Corey might be the faster driver behind Kasher, but he's given him the speed down the straight where it counts. And
oh, that's big. Am I looking at the wrong car? No, I was looking at the wrong same livery as the 71, because Josh Haynes has had to pit again from about 6th or 7th. Up front-ish. Harrison and Turner, 7th and 8th. This is Harrison trying to come around the outside. No, Turner's got him covered.
very thought that was a big lift then from Harrison, but I didn't quite. No, never mind. I misinterpreted. Very well.
And this is an interesting pack as well back there, though, because it's got second in the championship, Jack Boyd, in it as well, who's, I think, just hoping to have a clean race here and not bleed too many points. Brendan Hobson, who's still running in second. Equal speed between Ben Barguana at the lead and Ryan Kasher in 5th on the last lap, so it didn't close this time around. And then behind them, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. That's all here with Turner ahead of Harrison, like we saw. Jack Boyd there in front of Wayne Losh and Damian Seeger.
Temperament has definitely dropped this race compared to last one. Pretty normal to see in a race distance that's doubled, but that top 4 is still all within half a second, so something could go on in these last couple of laps. And yeah, okay, Jack Boyd is down in 10th at the moment, but 9th at the moment, sorry. But it doesn't take much for those top 4 to come together. It's some really obscure position, and Jack Boyd's right back up there again. But they're keeping a bit of a gap. There's no bump drafting to help them out, whereas I think further back there's a little bit of bump draft down the straight, which is helping them just a little bit, but it's also a bit more dangerous of a method to run.
Kasher still 4 seconds from the leader, and it's been that way about 2 laps in a row. They're trying everything, and McFarlane is trying to help him out. And here we go, Jack Boyd moving forward in the pack, up into 7th. He was 9th last time we looked, so he's taken a spot away from Turner, now around the outside of Harrison. Harrison is going to take that spot this time, so those two swap, but at the same time, Jack Boyd leapfrogs the both of them.
Yeah, very well done by Jack Boyd. Probably where he wants to be. He's probably one of the fastest 3 cars on track, excluding the draft. So if he can maybe not so much break the draft down the straights, but pull the gap in the corners, I think that'll be very good for him. The gap is 3 seconds in front to the like McFarlane, Kasha train. So I don't know if he'll quite be able to get there by the end of the race, but it'd be very interesting to see his charge up the field.
Carpenter off and rejoining. Bit wide from Hughes as he's having a dive at Aaron Oliver and does get up into third. Good use of that banking at MG and good braking, really well measured.
Yeah, MG's can be such a difficult corner to get right because you want to be as far left as you can, but the curb is raised and then it drops away. It unsettles the car, and I think it drops 100 meters in 10 meters. Like, that's a really steep incline to go down, but thankfully, like you said, the banking on the inside just works wonders to get the cars rotated around that very, very tight hairpin.
Remind me not to ride any roller coasters you've designed if you think 100 meters in 10 meters is a moderate drop. Here's
Did I
this
say moderate?
Still, you definitely need to be wearing a seatbelt for that kind of incline. Here we've got Boyd still at the lead of this pack. I think there's a lot of respect between this particular group here. They know each other. They know what they're about. Definitely seen Harrison and Boyd and Turner and Losh race against each other before. And I suspect they know that Boyd up front is their best chance to catch Kasha and McFarlane, who are having a little bit of problems with some of the traffic here, are they not?
Yeah, I believe so. They've just gotten past Ashley Norman and Connor's behind them now, but I think they did lose out a little bit. The gap's down to 2.3. It was 3.1 at the start of the lap, so they lost a chunk of time in that lap of traffic. Hopefully for Boyd, he gets them on the main straight and it's nice and easy, but because of the nature of how twisty this track is, lap traffic can absolutely ruin your lap, just like that.
It always swings and roundabouts with lapped traffic. It helps Boyd now get a little bit of time, but it could also come to sting him when he gets a little bit closer, which he will. And with 9 minutes to go, coming onto the pit straight, Jared Hughes has been moving up and moving up and moving up in this pack. We saw him jump Oliver, he's jumped Hobson, now he's pushing Ben Bargwanna at the lead towards turn 1, half a car length looking to the inside, sure he is, for the lead of the race into turn 1, Jared Hughes shoots on through.
Bargwanna tries to come back, but we've seen it time and time again, that outside line just does not work in Southern Loop, and good position to be though, get the run off the corner, try to follow through Stoner into Honda, as we've seen, very good corner for overtaking, and he pulls out very early as well to try and maximize that slingshot and straight to the inside. And does he overcook it? I think he does. He has.
Classic over-under for Jared Hughes as Bargwanna dove it in deep towards the apex. Now Hobson round the outside, thinking of his championship, is just carefully watching these two start to turn up the heat and start to battle for the race win. Behind them, I was also watching, those lapped cars have stuck to the tail of Kasha and McFarlane, and it's going to form a daisy chain, a little bit of a bridge between themselves, and here's Jack Boyd and his pack with Harrison and Turner. I think it's helped Jack Boyd and Anthony Connors off the road, letting the pack through. I think it's been pretty handy, that traffic for Jack Boyd, and there's more problems for Kasha around the outside of Norman, or a different chicken up. It's hard to tell. There's a couple of them.
Yes, it was Ashley Norman. He, I'm not sure what happened there. He went round the outside of Corey McFarlane. Kind of a bizarre move, but...
Ben Bargwanna's in the pit lane for a second time. You said that short stop. Was he going to have enough fuel? It seems like he may not. Bargwanna, quick first stop on the lane for a second time with 7 minutes to go, is out of the battle for the win.
I didn't quite get to see Brenton Hobson and Aaron Oliver's pit stop times. I'm not sure if you have that information, but most of the times we've seen it between 35 and 37 seconds. Ben Bargwanna was at 32, so I think that's definitely a fuel drop issue for him. And like you said, he's now down in 17th position and a long way away from Greg Holmes in 16th.
Then there were 3, and look behind them because that pack is forming up. Look at it. Jack Boyd, 1 car between himself and McFarlane. Can't flash the headlights in this thing. I'm sure he wishes he could. He wants to be at the rear bumper of McFarlane. We know Ashley Norman, though a lap down, does have this sort of top 10, top 15 pace, was part of it. Not yet impeding Boyd, but at a certain point, I think expect to see Boyd send it so that he can pick up more points and battle for 4th.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing about these sort of races, especially in these cars where it's so driver dependent. When you're racing someone who is a lap down at similar pace, you want to get past them because they're not your fight. But it's so difficult to get past them, and he should move out the way, but he also has his right to try and get back on the lead lap as well, even though these aren't the leaders. And I don't know, it's very frustrating for Jack Boyd, I'm sure, in the front of that Mazda.
Not yet hurting him too bad. He's going to go and slipstream, then have to pull out to the right-hand side, squeezes him all the way to the wall as Ashley Norman lets the whole pack through to form up this battle for 4th. Kasher, McFarlane, Boyd, Harrison, Turner, Losh, and still Damien Seeger very, very patiently with his caboose hooked to the train.
And then 2 becomes 5. Drop 1 from the lead pack and gain 2 in the second pack. And Jack Boyd is an absolute man on a mission. Lee Harrison, though, is not going to let him get away with it that easily, though. Giving him a real run for his money down to the hairpin. I think he might look for a move to the inside. No, Boyd goes to the inside. Lee follows him.
Sure does. Oh, and a little bit of a nudge really, really loosens up Kasher, who goes off. Now there's more contact. 3 wide towards Siberia. Boyd's going to try to come around the outside. Kasher is probably unhappy with that little shot to his bumper. He's not going to let them have it, and he comes back to the front of the pack. McFarlane might try to bully Boyd here, but I think Boyd will slot in. A lot of congestion through the hairpin. Now looking for another run, another line. Boyd has his nose ahead in 4th. It's going to be around the outside of Lukey Heights if he can manage it. Yes, he can. Then he can defend MG, and he's gone through in 1 lap to the lead of this pack. Kasher looks back down the inside, though it wasn't completely covered. Really loose on the grass for Kasher. He's going to hurt his momentum, but loose around the outside was also Boyd. This is hurting the ability of this pack to catch the leaders. Don't think that's going to happen anymore. With 3 minutes 45 to go, 3 more laps, this is the battle for 4th, and that's all they're thinking about.
Yeah, the points in this race are more important than last race, given the double distance. Corey McFarlane, another massive bump draft to the front of Ryan Kasher down the straight. These guys have been working so well together, and after losing out, they're trying to get back, but Jack Boyd round the outside. There's contact as well. Kasher's off, very tight. Can he get back on? Oh,
Boyd almost redresses that one, gives him space to rejoin, but then cuts back underneath to the lead of the pack. Was very aware of the little bit of contact that had been made, and once again, heads up stuff from the other drivers going, you know what? It's inevitable they're coming back across the track at turn 2. Let's give them the space so we don't cause an almighty accident and end up in Bass Strait.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of damage in race 1, but I think putting it in the ocean is going to cause a bit more damage than a bit of bump panels. And Kasher and McFarlane are working so well together. They're just following each other everywhere, and they're back into the lead of this pack. And this is helping Aaron Oliver and Brenton Hobson in front. Not that I think they were much threat, but this is just solidifying that thought. And McFarlane pushing all the way up Lukey Heights, but Jack Boyd just does not care. He's trying to still go around the outside.
Boyd almost off-roading it, absolutely parked at the apex is Ryan Kasher. Is he going to give the inside up? No, not quite. Single file at the front here, immediately behind them though. Losh and Seeger got side by side, I think, and Marty Turner in this pack, they're battling with him as well. They're all grouped up, but there's 2 different battles in there. And with 1 minute 50 to go on the clock, we are going to get 2 more laps because this can't be the white flag. By 4 seconds, it's going to go for 1 more lap. But that means it's attack time for Brenton Hobson as he comes around Jared Hughes side by side for the lead into turn number 1. And Hobson yields. He's thinking about that championship, I'm sure.
Yeah, a win would be fantastic for his championship lead, but Jack Boyd is in 4th, so even if he finishes 2nd, he still gets a bunch of points, and you gotta weigh those up. And big check up by Boyd. Kasha gives him the hurry up as the pack behind him checks up, and McFarlane again is right on his bumper. Kasha on the back of Boyd, and big bump.
Triple bump.
This could get very nasty very quickly.
Well, McFarlane was on the brakes really, really early. Marty Turner was not, as he comes down the inside of Lee Harrison. But Harrison's just going to stick a nose in there, and they're still side by side in front. The inside of Siberia belongs to Jack Boyd. And I think Harrison might just get that spot back off Turner, but they're absolutely side by side and can go any way across Lukey Heights and into MG. We've seen that coming towards the white flag across Lukey Heights. The nose is in front, but it's going to be the outside for Brenton Hobson, and Hughes ain't going to give up on his chance at a race win. He's saying, Hobson, you've already had 2. Don't be greedy. 2nd would still extend your championship lead. Hughes wants the glory. Hobson needs to think about the points, but he also would still like to win, no doubt. This is going to be the start of the final lap. Your top 3 absolutely together. A big pack looming for 4th where they're side by side as well. This is going to be spicy.
Oh yeah, let me get some Nando's real quick, because I think this is going to complement it well. They're too wide, bump drafting Daytona style down the main straight, and the pack behind. Brenton Hobson goes for the inside this time. I think he wins out, but Hughes is not going to give up. He's right there. A little bit of a love tap forces Hobson wide, but I don't think he's going to let it settle there.
The team racing behind here was off chops. 2 different bump drafting lanes. McFarlane pushing Kasha, Harrison pushing Boyd, Turner pushing Harrison, and they're still going to be side by side at the lead as well. No position in the top 10 is written in stone just yet, as a big dive down the inside, pushing a little deep from Hughes, sends Hobson back into the lead. And Aaron Oliver, what on earth is he thinking? Is it side by side behind as well? Boyd trying to come around the outside of Kasha to get the inside for Siberia. Kasha's going to try to close that off. Kasha's trying to close it off, but he can't, because there's a Jack Boyd shaped hole down the inside. This is going to be nuts. Will it end in tears or glory? It depends on who you are.
Yeah, they're still 2 by 2. I don't think these guys have been single file for the last lap and a half. 2 by 2 for the lead as well. Now it's Hughes and Oliver.
Huge dive from Hughes, but knows he can't make contact with Hobson. He's trying to box out Oliver. Hobson's in the perfect spot. It's 3 wide behind them as well. Absolutely nuts. Kicking off. Cash is in the good spot here. There is contact. Jack Boyd into McFarlane. All of them send Lee Harrison off, but up front, Brenton Hobson surely is going to be able to hold on to the win, or is he? It'll be a drag race to the line. Aaron Oliver's got huge speed here as well. Who's going to do it? Get your camera out. 3 wide in the feature race in Australian production car E-Series, and I think, par in confirmation, Jared Hughes has snuck his way 0.06 of a second in front of Hobson. Aaron Oliver side by side with them as well, and there just wasn't time to show this next pack. That was intense action.
We knew that was going to happen, but I didn't quite think it was going to happen like that. Jack Boyd forced Corey McFarlane onto the AstroTurf. I think this is a replay of that second battle pack.
Liquid Cool the replay machine, because it's about to get a workout after the checkered flag. Here they were, battling for 4th. Kasha, McFarlane, Boyd around the outside, tries to sneak back. Harrison's looking for where he's going to go, and it was hip and shoulder, sent 3 of them wide.
Yeah, it was such minute contact, but it was just enough to unsettle Corey's car on the AstroTurf, and the curves are very slippery. We go to the lead battle now. It was absolutely insane. Oh, the super slow-mo. We thank our producer Jay for that, because what a shot that is. 6,000ths of a second, and Aaron Oliver was 800ths of a second behind them. So absolute skin of your teeth stuff to finish the second race here. What a finish all round that was.
No doubt. The graphic said 0.06 of a second. My timing says 0.05 of a second. Regardless, you could not tell that one with the naked eye. You needed the transponder. And how close was Aaron Oliver to it as well? Absolutely nuts. Let's catch our breath. Let's run down the finishing order after a really intense 1 hour on track, 40 minutes in race number 2 for Australian production car E-Series. Look at the margins. Jared Hughes from Hobson, from Oliver, not a tenth of a second to cover them. And then you go to Casher, the lucky boy in that following pack who held on to 4th. Seeger was in 10th the last 20 minutes of the race. Days of Thunder through the smoke grabs a top 5 in front of Marty Turner, Corey McFarlane, Wayne Losh, Jack Boyd in 9th, and Mark Johnson in 10th.
Well, in 11th, now that I've caught my breath, finishes Brody Cook. Matthew Hansford Taylor had a very solid round, 21st to 12th in the end for him in race 2. Daniel Webster and Lee Harrison, in 13th. Daniel Webster in 14th. Greg Holmes in 15th. Ben Bargwiner, after his late pit stop, finishes 16th in front of Josh Haynes. Moz Morris, unfortunate contact early on, cost his race in 18th. Aaron Hindle and Dale Carpenter rounding out the top 20.
Last cars on the lead lap, Luke Angeli, Glenn Boyd, and Ben Snell. Just off the lead lap, Ashley Norman and Anthony Connors. And I think it's fair to say retirements for Lachlan Manif, Andrew Hobby, Cooper Allen cruelly dropped from the lead of the race. What could he have done in that race? And then Phil Orty, Damon Woods, and the last two were, I think, Caleb Hydes and Liam Caplice, two drivers who could have been there in the top 10. But logic dictates when you've got 32 drivers going for one top step on the podium, some drop out, and there was no room for error around Phillip Island. Told you the replays were not done. What a crazy end to this race. Here's Marty Turner. He's looking at the 3 wide in front of him. And you got to look for, how does Seeger come through all of this in blue and black, I think, is Seeger. He's, at this point in time, 2 corners to go on the final lap. Seeger is in 10th, and he finishes 5th. Down the inside he goes, picks off Losh. Now he passes Harrison and Boyd. Now he passes McFarlane. And now he passes Marty Turner in one corner.
That's real NASCAR strats there. If there's a crash ahead, just go to the bottom. It works absolute wonders in that penultimate corner. No doubt Turner would have had a draft down the straight, but given how low their momentum is, I don't think it was clearly not enough, and very, very good evasive driving to pick up a bunch of positions in just a couple of corners.
Let's speak to one of our feature race podium sitters, because Aaron Oliver joins us third, but only a tenth of a second away from the win. What a battle you were witness to there as well in the closing 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, boys, it was an absolutely crazy 40 minutes. You know, it started from the very first lap off the line and that. And, yeah, we decided to go a bit of a different strategy tonight and went the early pit stop. And Brenton went a lap later and he managed to jump us by a fair bit. But, yeah, we managed to catch it back up and just held onto the tyres and drove smoothly for the last bit. And those last 10 minutes were absolutely crazy between Jared, Brenton and I. But yeah, no, it was awesome racing.
What about fuel today? We saw Ben Bargwana right with you in that lead pack. Dilly, he had to peel off for a second stop. Any management needed at all, or was there a serious problem there for Bargs Jr.?
Yeah, you definitely needed to take fuel into consideration, that's for sure. I don't believe the 3 litres was enough. We went the 7. All us guys raced together at the Simrigs team. But yeah, we all put on 7.2 litres for that one, so we just managed to keep on going throughout the whole thing, and there wasn't any lifting on the throttle. But I did want to take it pretty easy though, just to let the tyres cool down and not run it too hard, and just managed to keep on doing those good lap times at the end to stay there.
From the pole of race number 1, you finished 6th. So to go from 6th to on the podium in the second race is probably better progress that you were happier with, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, I was very happy with how the second race went in that, and it was all to do with strategy too. That played a big role in it. But yeah, unfortunately, what happened in race 1, it's just how racing goes in that, and sometimes you get bangled up. But yeah, I mean, there's other guys in that race too that managed to not come away as well. So it made for a very interesting race too, with guys, all the fast guys situated throughout the whole grid and coming through made it very interesting.
Well, when you've finished on the podium, it means you've finished, which means you've picked up some points. We've seen how chaotic this style of racing is going to be going forward. You reckon it's going to come down to the last round, who can take this championship, and a bit of luck mixed in with that?
No, definitely. We've got the big one next, boys. It's out Bathurst and that. I believe we've got a 75-minute enduro in that, and it's the only race of the night. So qualifying is going to be imperative to get you 3 laps down by yourself. It's going to be very important to be up the front. And if you can run the whole way through, stay up the front, you're going to be up the front at the end and you're going to win. So it's going to be very imperative to go hard at the start and just keep pushing through.
Well, if you're lucky or not, depending on your perspective, you'll be telling us all about that after next round. Anyone you want to thank? Any final thoughts from Phillip Island?
Yeah, no, for sure. I just want to thank all the sponsors and that support us along the way. Penrod Oil, Simrigs, Joe Morano from Harcourt's Real Estate, Extreme Air Conditioning, Extreme Racing, Motivate Training, Repco, Murray Bridge, MB Wellman Engineering Co, Living the Dream Australia, Revolution Race Gear Adelaide, Murray Bridge Batteries, and yeah, that's it, boys. Thank you again.
What a pleasure. What a great race you gave us in that one. Cheers. Well, we are fortunate enough, Brad, to have the whole podium standing by. So we've had third. Let's go to second. You can have Brenton Hobson.
Evening, Brenton. Well, that's a second, a first, and 2 more seconds. But those last 2 were absolutely not as cut and dry as they talk. Can you give us the big TLDR of both race 1 and race 2? Because that was an absolute yo-yo of a night for you.
Yo-yo, yeah, for sure. The second race wasn't so bad because well, it was a bit longer, so I think some people were a bit more sensible, and we could use a bit of strategy to break up the big packs, because it was the big pack stuff that was a bit scary, and even the start of the second race, but in particular the first one, it was chaos. So yeah, I got sent about 50 times, and I thought the race was over about 50 times, and then we ended up in second. I mean, I didn't probably deserve to be second with where I was at times, but I know that we were good enough to be there for pace. So it worked out okay for me in the end. But yeah, it was just a bit of luck, I think, tonight.
A bit of luck or a bit of skill. You can thread that one whichever way you like. Of course, big title fight between yourself and Jack Boyd. 4 points between the two of you coming into this race. Obviously, this helps you out a lot. What are your predictions for Bathurst? Because that's going to be an absolute curveball again on top of the last 2 weeks that we've seen.
Yeah, this week at Phillip Island was the one I was worried about, because the draft is so powerful, and like you were just going to get this pack racing and desperados and all the good stuff that comes with that. So I was worried that we'd get fed this week and it would be a bad result. I think that's a bit what happened to Jack, and he had a bit of a bad night. I mean, he still got 2 decent results, so he's certainly not out of it. But we just came away a little better than he did. But that's what I was worried about tonight, because there was a lot of chance for that to happen. I think you'll still see a bit of it at Bathurst. It's a high-speed track and a couple of long straights there, so I think we'll still see a bit of that. But it's one of those tracks where it's got enough. There's enough technicality to that place, especially across the top. If you're committed and fast, that you can build sort of some gaps in between some of the cars. It's not just a Daytona or Talladega style race like it was tonight. So I don't think it will be as bad. Tonight was the one I had circled that I was worried about. And Bathurst, I think, will be great fun. It's a long race, and I like the enduro stuff, especially strategy type racing. So I'm looking forward to it.
Very good to hear. Pit stops in this race, we didn't have any last week. I believe we have them next week as well. What was your strategy with the pit stop? Because Aaron was saying that the early pit stop helped him a lot, and you followed shortly after. How much fuel did you take, and what was your tire strategy tonight as well?
I took the 2 right-hand side tyres, the loaded side tyres. The fuel, I wasn't convinced we could make it without taking some, so I just took the minimum that it would let you allocate to the car, which I think was 3.8 litres. I took all of that. I probably could have taken a little less, but I put in enough that I could run without a draft. I wanted to make sure I had enough that if I didn't have a draft, I could drive all the way to the end. In the end, I had a little bit spared because we were nose to tail for a few laps, but I wanted to just make sure that I did what I needed to do to be able to get to the end. That first and foremost, I think a couple of guys short fueled themselves and they made a gain in the stop, but then obviously couldn't get to the end. which is what I wanted to avoid. As for when I pitted, I mean, I was tempted to pit at the end of lap 1, and I just stayed in that lead group until it got a bit too much chaos, and then just got out of it because basically my main objective was just to try and get to the end. I knew if I didn't have any big incidents or any drama that I'd be nearish to the front. I was happy to sacrifice a chance at a win for, like a 5th or a 6th or something if it meant that I'd stayed out of trouble. So I was happy to pit out of it early, out of the draft train, and just run my own race. Ultimately, a lot of people ended up coming about the same time anyway, so it didn't matter. But it was about preservation for me, especially after the first race. I was I was getting battered from left side, right side, front, behind, everywhere. So I just wanted to stay away from all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, we don't get bills for this racing, because I think that race 1 would have been a bit steep. Anyone you'd like to thank for tonight's action?
Well, thanks to the guys behind the series putting it on and the sponsors associated with it. I mean, without all that, this doesn't happen, and we don't get to come here and do this stuff. So a huge shout out to all those guys, and obviously to you for putting on a broadcast as well, for jumping in here and putting on the event that you do. It's good. And to the guys at SSR as well. Cool bunch of guys to race with, and a fun team to be a part of. So I think that's about it.
Awesome. Well, we hope to see you in here again next week. Of course, like Aaron said, we are at Bathurst, and like you said, going to be an excellent race, and we very much hope to see you here again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
There we had Brenton Hobson extending his championship lead, scoring another podium, getting altogether just a little too comfortable in the interview room. What a race he had, 0.005 of a second short of the man we're about to speak to. It's Jared Hughes. Qualified on the front row, and then it didn't go your way in race number 1. Race number 2, fighting back from 18th to take the win. Must be a great feeling.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Obviously, race 1 started off first, didn't go to plan. Well, we were going good for the first 3/4 of the race, I think it was. And then, just got caught up in a little shunt at the end. But, started P18 and then just had to make my way up to P1. Lots of good racing. It was definitely one of the harder races I've done with how big the draft is. So, it was definitely a lot of fun.
And the last couple laps, you're trying to fight for that lead, and you're thinking how you're going to survive the draft. Did it play out how you were hoping for, or was it just a little bit of luck that 0.005 of a second was in your favor, not the other way?
Well, I actually didn't think I had the win at the end. I thought, that's so close, but I think I thought he had it, and apparently it was only 0.005. So, the last few laps were definitely a bit intense. Lots of good moves, but it was good. We weren't taking each other out. Definitely a bit of rubbing going on, but we didn't do it enough where we took the other person out. So now it was good. Definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, kind of been too much rubbing. You've all finished with both of your mirrors attached, which we've seen definitely doesn't seem to happen. What about the difference from round number 1 to here? I mean, still an Australian track, but very different, and the racing we saw also quite different as well.
Yeah, this round especially is definitely a lot better than my last one. I think the first 2 races in the last one I was like 36 or something from getting caught in quite a few crashes, and then the last one we went all right. But definitely, I think the racing was definitely a lot better this weekend, and it helped that the toe normally adds for better races. So it's definitely a little bit better this weekend. Oh, this week I should say.
If we're going to ask everyone, we've got to ask everyone, what about the strategy? Was it just plain cut and simple, 2 tires and a little bit of fuel, or was there anything you could find some margin, some advantage with that pit stop in the second race?
Well, we started our strategy planning about when we entered pit lane. So we were just trying to think of, we started a lap earlier thinking about when we're going to pit. And then when we entered pit lane, we were still trying to figure out which tyres to put on and then how much fuel to put in. So it was a bit rushed, but it ended up working all right. So, yeah.
Well, no doubt in the end it worked out for you. How about that racing in the pack? I mean, you've got all these drivers around you, some that you might know well, some that you might not. How does that, what does that do for your heart rate, what you're thinking about?
It's definitely the heart rate was up in those last few laps because in the pack at the start of the race it was definitely a bit more intense because could have 3 cars passing at one time down the straight in the toe, so you always had to be looking around. Couldn't just look ahead of you, had to keep looking in the mirrors and make sure you weren't going to get punted or you're getting past or anything. So yeah, definitely heart rate's up in those the whole race, but especially in those last couple laps, making sure we just finished in that top spot.
Jared Hughes, a win is yours in dramatic fashion. What a fantastic battle you gave us. Anyone you want to thank?
Yep, I'd like to thank AC Delco, Norwell Motorplex, Kayla's Cookery, Showtime, Movie World, and JLX as well. And also the guys that have put on this meet. It's definitely improved from last weekend. Had lots of fun, so yeah, thank you for that.
Delightful. Hope to see you going forwards.
All good, thanks guys.
There we had it. I think everyone who stood on the podium today was pretty happy, given the likelihood and the chance of things going pear-shaped. Those who made it through were justifiably delighted with their result. For Jared Hughes, well, he picks up a much-deserved win. For Brenton Hobson, he extends his championship lead. And for Aaron Oliver, I think he was pretty happy to have a clean race and be there at the end. And you should be here on SimSpeed TV in 1 week's time when we continue the Australian tour to Australia's Temple of Motorsport, one of the most famous tracks in the world, one of the greatest places that there ever was, Mount Panorama, for that enduro round. Hopefully, it's going to be just as good as the action we saw here tonight at Phillip Island, if not a little bit better. But on SimSpeed TV, I've been David Haynes, Brad Wingard with me, and Jay Kennedy with production and cameras handling all of that goodness. For the Australian production car Eseries, we've got to thank simrigs.com, Phoenix Smokers, Duo Trading, and Wolfchester. They make this awesome series and this broadcast possible. Make sure you're following SimSpeed on all of our channels so you can catch us next week at Mount Panorama.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top. Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?